I'd say the number one skill today that you could have online is copywriting. So the art of persuading through words. If you master salesmanship through print, like they say, you can convince clients to come to you. You can convince your friends to go to a movie. You can convince people to pay you for services that don't exist yet. You can sell products that are still, in development stage. Look at Kickstarter, for example. They're pretty much pitching products that do not exist yet, just because they're able to communicate well. So I would say if you really want to master if there's one skill that you can master that will help you for every other skill that you can master after that one, it will be copywriting.
Welcome everyone back to another installment of Millionaire Secrets. I'm here with a really exciting guest that we've got today, Matthias Mazur, who's coming to us from London right now, but is hails from all over. He's a highly international person, which is I admit, as an American, if somebody who else is somewhere else, we call them international, but that's just an American centric version of the world. They probably think we're international, right? Anyways. Matthias, I'm glad you're here, man. Let's dig in. Yep.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to share, and let's have some fun.
Yeah, for sure. So to start with, you grew up in Switzerland, right? Do you mind sharing with me? And I will say I've been to Switzerland. So when I think Switzerland, obviously the scenery is beautiful. I think it's very expensive. Like, in Zurich, I think is literally the most expensive city in the world. Yep. But what I don't necessarily, I think there's a lot of money there, but I don't know that it seems like it's kind of an insular place. Like a lot of the Swiss stay in Switzerland, right? And so I don't think necessarily branching out all over the world, kind of entrepreneurial, making it happen. But obviously that's my naive Americanism, and you clearly show that's not the case. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey from, Swiss boy to international entrepreneur and CEO?
Sure. So born and raised in Switzerland. My dad came from Poland actually during the Cold War as a political refugee. Met my mom who left Turkey at a very young age. So born in a family in Switzerland, a very unusual mix of heritage. And so born and raised in Switzerland, I'm 34 years old now. What's interesting about Switzerland is, you actually nailed it, is it's a very conservative country. It has a lot of benefits, one of the most beautiful countries, one of the safest countries in the world. The healthcare is amazing. The systems, the way the country runs, is everything works well. Mm-hmm. Now, on the flip side, it's not a very entrepreneurial country as far as tech goes, as far as social media goes. And so at a pretty young age, I started traveling thanks to tennis. So I really grew up playing a lot of sports, mainly tennis. I also played ice hockey and judo, but tennis was really my thing. And I focused on it for years. I was recruited by Roger Federer's coach at the time. I was pretty much training every day between 3 to 5 hours, and my goal was to go pro. That was the only thing on my mind for years. And I'm the same age as guys. If you follow tennis, Rafael Nadal, Novak Djokovic is a year younger than me. So I was in that crop basically. Mm-hmm. And in the juniors, I traveled and represented Switzerland on the junior World Junior Tour and the European Tour. And so I played against all these guys that you've seen on TV. And then at age 17, when everything was going really well for me, that's when I was recruited by the Swiss Tennis Federation I basically got injured. And so, when you get injured at 17, it's very tough because that's really the most important year between the transition of going from the juniors to the pros. And so it was a bad injury. And that's when you literally have to question everything you do. And I was forced to pivot. And I started selling a few years prior. In the year 2000, actually, I started selling video games on eBay. I had this idea that, I can't work for someone else. So, of course I need to make money for myself. So I have to blaze my own path, basically. And so I found this, I remember having to put together a research paper for class when I was 14. And my parents just got these old, the old dial-up modems at the time. And so connecting to Alta Vista at the time, 20 years ago now, it got me thinking, like, what if I could sell on this new thing on the web? And so I got injured in 2003, and I had a lot of time because it was a bad leg injury. So for about 6 to 9 months, I literally couldn't move, I couldn't train. So I had a lot of time, and so that's when I decided to go back and think of actually doing something online, and maybe building initially an income. I think it would be wrong to say that you try to go from zero to making millions a year when you haven't made your first dollar. But at the time, it was really a platform that I hoped could actually provide an income so I could be free. That was the number one goal. After the injury, I went back on the pro tour, but on the challenger tour, which is under basically all the Grand Slams. It's the secondary tour. Deep down, to be honest, I knew it was kind of over because all the guys I was actually competing with and being neck to neck in the juniors had all turned pro, some of them already. Nadal had won Roland Garros, the French Open, at age 19 or 18. So my direct competitors at age 17 had all transitioned to the pros. And so for me, deep down, I knew it was time to do something else. And that's when I got hit with pneumonia at age 21, actually. And that's when I realized, okay, tennis is not going to work out. Let's go full time in entrepreneurship. Let's really go and focus on building, something online. And that's pretty much that's pretty much everything that happened before going pro online in a way. And since then, I've built businesses, acquired businesses, sold businesses. Now I have over 40 full-time employees. We do social media, so we do a lot of paid acquisition for different brands that we own. And we also teach entrepreneurs and business owners, mainly in Europe, over the last few years, how to use social media, email marketing, branding, copywriting to grow their offline business or their online business, but really get more visibility and sales online. And that's pretty much the journey so far.
Yeah, it's a really cool story. So ZuraMedia that's your agency per se.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
And you guys do work for clients, or is it, you mentioned you do a lot of paid acquisition for your own brands, but you also do client work?
Yeah. So we started out doing, I think a lot more agencies do this nowadays. At the time, we started doing a lot of paid media for other businesses, other clients. And then we found out very quickly that it was more profitable to do everything, to basically build and acquire brands and plug in my marketing teams than to sell services to other businesses.
Yeah.
And so I think the next evolution, actually, I was interviewed at Facebook at their headquarters in Dublin in Europe here. And that was pretty much the theme, that the next evolution for a lot of agencies is not just doing service work and client work, really acquiring businesses and using all the tools that we know and that that we master online to really multiply the value of those brands and businesses. So we still have a few clients, but that's not the focus at all. The focus is really on building our own brands, but acquiring also businesses and then increasing the value through online marketing, pretty much, whether it's paid media, content, joint ventures.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really where I'm seeing the biggest value in the next 5 to 10 years.
You know, it's interesting you say that. I tell people all the time that digital marketing is the modern day superpower. You know, when you really learn these skills, I mean, it's you immediately put yourself it's like you talked about, what do you call it, the challenger league and the pro league. You immediately put yourself in the pros.
Absolutely.
Just in life when you learn these skills, because now it's like you said, you have a set of skills that multiply the value of anything you put your hands on. So, you know, if you have a widget, whether it's leather wallets or chapstick or water bottle, and you multiply it times the power of that skill set, you immediately add so much value to the thing. And on the flip side, if somebody has a business, I agree with what you're saying. I can see it, where rather than putting these agencies on retainers, I think as these brands really understand the value, this isn't old school. This isn't like, oh, well, I need somebody to work the phones to put my ad in the yellow pages or put it on the billboard. These people are like, they're like athletes. They completely transform the value of your organization when you sign the right one. And so a big brand now, I think, is less likely to just go pay an agency $100,000 a month. And rather they would just say, I want to acquire that person and bring it in-house. So I do see what you're saying. It's either agencies building their own brands or brands absorbing good agency workers.
Yep.
And it's almost like the agency, it was too valuable of a skill set to ever stay as a middleman.
You nailed it. It's the skill set. It's really a full stack of skills that you need to build businesses online, right? You need to understand psychology, marketing, design, direct response, branding nowadays, social media, content, the right, I mean, you could list dozens and dozens of skills to just build one business, right? So why not use the same skills and actually build businesses either from scratch, but also, and we've done that. But what we found is acquiring businesses that do 5 to 50K a month is so much easier to double, triple, quadruple revenue in the first quarter rather than having to start from scratch. And the level of competency that businesses have is very low, really. If they do not master online marketing, today, it's very tough for them to compete. So if you come in with a skill set that we have, I mean, you bring so much value to the business, and the conversation is very different. Executives actually want you on board. It's not you pitching services. It's like, I feel like the leverage is completely different over the last 24 months, where businesses understand that we need someone who can come in and just basically take over and help the business as a whole.
Yeah. It's funny. I love where this conversation has just sort of naturally gone, because I feel like I say this stuff all the time, and sometimes people are like, yeah, whatever. That's a self-serving viewpoint for Jeff to have, because he teaches the skills. So of course he's going to say that they're valuable, right? But I think about, not to bring up a irritating subject, but I think about my ex-wife. She was she graduated with a marketing degree. She was a marketing major, but she graduated, I don't know, 1990, or no, probably like 2001 or something. It was back when marketing was mostly analog marketing. Yeah. And even still, I've tried to hire marketing majors in 2018 and 2019, and I would say they've updated the marketing curriculum to be like circa 2005 or 2008, right? I mean, they're still like at least a decade behind. Yeah. And so back then, if you look up all the C-suite executives, like CMOs are by far the lowest paid. And marketing, I know, because when I started online, I was doing all this stuff. And like I say, I was married to a marketing major at the time. And I would ask questions. I was like, oh, sweet. I'm married to a marketing major. God bless her. I hope she's doing great. She didn't know a thing about real world, applicable, value-based marketing.
Yep.
So it's easy to see why historically marketing has kind of been disregarded, because it was basically marketing meant brokering media.
Yeah.
For most of the history of marketing, right?
Newspaper ads, banner ads.
Yeah. And now it's like a science. It's like a data science.
Yep.
Combined with an art.
Yep.
And I love it. So, I mean, I assume you agree with me. It's like a modern superpower.
100%. I mean, it's to the point where it's like, and so I've seen in the way people treat online marketers. I remember 15 years ago. When did you start online?
2008, and people were totally dismissive.
Yes, remember that.
Yeah.
So I remember selling my first offer on ClickBank in 2003.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So if you told anyone in 2003, because I remember telling my friends, hey, I'm selling something online, I have an ebook, right?
Yeah.
The first word that came to mind was, oh, you sell bullshit online. Right?
Yeah. I thought you were going to say scam.
Of course.
Yeah.
You scam people online. Now, what's happening in today's world?
Mm-hmm.
The same people, and I have them on Instagram, my friends, my high school friends.
Yeah.
The same people who are looking for a new career because, the world has changed. Literally, the world has changed especially over the last 6 months, right? The same people who were dismissive 15, 18 years, 17 years ago, today are asking me, what book should I read to understand what you're doing? Like, what's this online thing? What's copy? You mentioned copywriting. What is it? How can I do social media? And so the world has literally been flipped. And now it's like, I really understand, and I honestly underestimated how fast this would change. I think COVID changed everything.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And now it's a case where we're getting so much inbound traffic, so many requests, so many business owners and executives who literally ask, hey, what can we do? Like, what can we do now online? And we talked to the same executives a few years ago, and they were dismissive at the time of services, of agency services, consultancy, and now they're coming back. Mm-hmm. And so what 15 or 17 years ago was considered a very low level, was perceived as a low level skill, today is probably one of the most important skills a business could have.
Yeah, I totally agree. And here's what I think is an important sort of light to cast on this whole conversation, and I'm sure you're like me, where there's this very sort of base human temptation to want to be like, nah, I told you so, but that's not what this is. I mean, I'm sure we're both very satisfied that the world is finally going, oh, he was right. But it's really a lot more than that. It's going, hey, I'm glad that the world is seeing how much value there is here. But I also, tell me if you relate to this, I feel like there's almost a little bit of responsibility to be like a standard bearer or almost a steward of this beautiful thing that we have, this diamond, if you will, of skills. Because anytime you have a mass awakening with this flood of interest, there's a tendency to kind of devalue the thing. And now everybody's like, oh, well, it all happens on the internet. It's all digital. It's the software and it's the machines that do all the work. Like I think there's this probably a tendency now or maybe it's coming to be like, well, you don't really have to be that smart. Those guys were good just because they did it early, not because they were actually good. And so what I think I'm glad you're saying is, look, the full stack is a really, really impressive stack. I mean, it's it's like, you know, what LeBron James is to basketball. I mean, with the passing and the dribbling and the outside shooting and the posting up and the rebounding and the court vision and there's an equivalent online that, like you said, is copywriting, and it's psychology, and it's understanding where people are in the funnel and the engagement sequence, and it's pacing, and it's all this stuff that just because suddenly 1 billion people are interested doesn't mean 1 billion people are qualified.
No, and honestly, there's stuff that you can teach.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've watched the Last Dance. The Jordan episode.
Yeah.
This stuff you could train, and I've been lucky enough to train with some of the best tennis coaches in the world and see literally firsthand how Federer trains. And this is not to say that I was close to him. I was just lucky enough to see him for a full year and see how he prepares and how he trains. And this was 2003, so this was when he was starting to win. And that's really when you see the habits, right? There's things you can't teach. There's things that you can't learn in a book. The full stack, you have to go through it. You have to put in the hours. You have to put in the years of winning and losing and seeing what works and what doesn't work and questioning. And so as much as it's a superpower today, it's very easy to look at people like, you know, LeBron and say, oh, well, he's winning today, but no one looks at the poster you have behind you. Everyone sees success.
Right.
No one sees what's under the surface. And so to reach the level of success or the level of competency, we're talking tens of thousands of hours of reading and looking at FAQs online and seeing why, you know, your site looks different on Safari than Chrome, and all these things that a lot of people take for granted, but for you and me, that's the science, right?
Right.
And so it takes time. It really takes time.
Yeah, I love that you talked about the 10,000 hours concept, and I'm just so glad I got in 13 years ago. You know, I'm jealous that you got in 18 years ago or whatever it was. But you know what, that doesn't do me any good. But
same, it's
you know,
stone age of online marketing for both of us.
I know, right? I mean, 2003, you're like a grandpa, and you're only 34. But so you mentioned the qualitative factors, the habits, the personality, most of the really good digital marketers I know are fairly obsessive people. And I'm blessed. You know, I came up in a community that produced, I know that Europe has its own set of heroes and culture, but for some of the almost the icons of digital marketing here in the United States, I came out of a community that produced a good number of them, and I'm so grateful for that. It's kind of the same thing. You get to observe people's habits and their obsessive tendency, almost their dysfunction in certain parts of their life that lends itself to achievement in others. So I'm curious, I mean, obviously, if you were playing tennis at that level, and I assume at this point you're not bitter about your injury. You've probably made peace with it and even found the beauty in it, right? Or you know, so I am sorry that happened to you, but I assume that even prior to that injury, there was so much that went into just playing at that level that probably has led to the results that you now get in your new career. Is that true?
I could have never built businesses without having gone through my tennis, training. Impossible. Because the skill set is the same, whether you want to be, the best rapper, the best chef, the best athlete, the best entrepreneur. It's all the same thing. The skill sets, the competency level that you need to reach to be a pro athlete can be transferred to any other discipline, any other activity that you do. And that's why a lot of former athletes who actually don't waste all their money transition pretty well to doing other things after a career. The ones who build discipline, attitude, who have a good work ethic, who are able to control their focus, who are able to control their environment. The same things that you learn when you're 12, 13, 14 on the courts are the same things that I'm now literally teaching to my leaders in my companies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's honestly, I'm lucky to have gone through everything with tennis. And of course, I'd be lying if I said that, I'm happy I got injured. Of course, no one gets, I would have loved to have a long tennis career, but I was able to use, it was very much a fight or flight moment when I got injured. It was a sink or swim. It was okay. I can complain. It sucks. I had, clothing sponsors and banks sponsoring me. I was number one in the country. I was in the press at a young age. I mean, I was the equivalent in the States to a number one draft pick.
Wow.
Everything was going great. And then everything evaporates overnight. So it's
crazy.
So so to come back to your question about, looking back on, the injury and everything, actually, it took me a few years after the injury to understand what really happened. Where I was lucky is that I already had a business running, so it kind of took my focus off being sad and really being able to focus on a new outlet in a way. So the transition was very easy for me. I was lucky that I had to learn. There's so many things to learn in online marketing, and I was so busy learning everything. It kind of took my mind off feeling sorry for myself and actually focusing on something new. And yes, the skills are all the same. Whether you want to be a great chef, great athlete, great writer, or a great entrepreneur, you can pull from all those those soft skills and just inject them in your new adventure in a way.
So I'd like to ask your opinion on something, and I totally agree with you. And so, my situation is like, I'm not naturally a great athlete. I was decent, but not great at any sport. Right. So I never had this idea that I could be a professional athlete, but I loved the training. I loved it. And I was kind of like a fat kid. So the metamorphosis that came from training for me in terms of self-esteem and starting to feel good about certain things, certain parts of my life that had previously felt like liabilities, I fell in love with the rigor. And I think that's what for me has carried over. But the thing about athletics, and I use a lot of athletic and training metaphors, and I use a lot of like Navy SEAL metaphors too, because I love those guys because they're crazy.
Yeah, I love that mindset.
Yeah. So, but here's my question. Athletics require, like, obviously, I'm sure whether it's tennis or, golf or certainly football or basketball, there's like certain people that are built for it and certain people that aren't, right? I could have done all the same training you did, and I doubt I ever would have been a candidate for pro tennis. But that's the thing I think is so cool about the internet is I think it's pretty close to like the most wide open field there is.
Yeah.
And I'm curious your thoughts on that. Like because there's some people who say, I'm not cut out for that. My mind doesn't work that way. I'm not wired that whatever that means. It's easy to quantify in athletics. It's a lot grayer in something like the internet. I think it's like the most fair thing ever. I'm curious your thoughts. Am I not seeing things that other people are?
I think it's honestly the biggest opportunity in history, because you can find something that you like in online marketing and make it your own. You can be a great video editor, right? I know how to edit videos on my iPhone. I know kind of what I want when I'm directing, an ad that we want to create, but I'm not there clicking, in Adobe.
Right.
But you can be a great video editor and actually live a very chilled life, a life that's full of freedom, being able to travel and make videos online on your iMac, right? So, or you could hate videos, but you can be a great writer and you can write content for brands. You can be a writer for online magazines. You can contribute to, there's so many magazines now that literally need new content every day. Or you could be a graphic designer. So my point is, it's such everything today, everything that's commerce based needs online marketing, whether it's on the lead gen side and it's a first touch, and then it goes to phone sales or in-person sales, or if it's just like a full online funnel from A to Z. There's a skill that anyone can build. And I really think that anyone can find something that they don't necessarily need to love that skill, but they can really make a very comfortable living today doing something from home. And honestly, 10, 15 years ago, it was much tougher. Yeah. Because today's software, like look at how many softwares are out there that you can actually learn to master and get a nice a part-time income from. Whereas 15 years ago, I remember I had to code everything in HTML and PHP on my first ClickBank site, right? So there's a lot of things that I really think if you take the time to go through everything that online marketing has to offer, I really think anyone can find something that they enjoy and that they can, make a nice income with.
I love the way you put that it's not about just because internet marketing facilitates entrepreneurship for guys like you and me who love the challenge and we want to master and dominate everything. It doesn't mean that's the only way to do it. You can become a specialist in one piece of it. And it's funny you picked the two examples that you did, because our video editor, who started with us part-time, but he impressed us on a few projects. And so now we just actually expanded him where he's doing research and he's building these mashup videos for me on YouTube. And, he's full-time with us now. He's making great money. I actually think he lives in Hawaii, and his girlfriend has a surfing channel, and he does her videos and our videos.
You're like me. Sometimes you don't even know where your teams are based, right?
Yeah, I just know he lives in a beachy place somewhere, awesome. But he's good at video editing. And then our content writer, who does all my YouTube content outlines and helps us with headlines and thumbnails and stuff, she lives in Uruguay. She's an Australian living in Uruguay who writes we just send her PayPal money every 2 weeks. Those are perfect examples. And there's literally, you and I, we could probably sit down and make a list of 50 different skills.
Yep.
And you only got to master one to change your life. And you compare that to what most people do to survive.
Yeah.
And I don't go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, please. It's your interview.
The cool thing is you don't even need to go full time.
Yeah.
You could do it on the side, make a few $100s a week and see if you like it. So it's not like, the Carnegie days or the Rockefeller days where you had to go full time and sell everything and put all your money in one venture. You can literally go if you can do as much or as little as you want. And that's the beauty of it today. You can run teams and build businesses but the truth is it's not everyone can do it. It takes a certain type of your brain needs to be calibrated in a certain way. It's a very obsessive thing to be an entrepreneur, to be an entrepreneur, to build teams and to execute on vision, to hire good people and train them, inspire them, give them safety and security so they can provide and really guide them. Not everyone's cut out to be an entrepreneur and to build businesses, which is fine. You can be a great specialist and make great money and have a lot of fun and not take on all the responsibility that people like you and me take, for example. And that's fine. And the beautiful thing is you do as much or as little as you want. And what you mentioned with your video editor, maybe in a year he'll want to do graphics. Maybe in a year he'll want to do more marketing, more product launches, right?
Right.
So they can always add new skills to the resume literally overnight. And never in history have we seen this much opportunity.
So where would you counsel someone, and I'm asking selfishly on behalf of my audience, because I know from the messages I get, the majority of the people that watch and listen to me are people that are sort of aspiring to all this stuff that we're talking about, right? This opportunity, this lifestyle, and this money that's out there. Where would you advise those people to start in terms of the overall opportunity of the internet and digital marketing?
I think the number one, so I would go and think about the top skills. Mm-hmm. When you think of the top skills, the top earners, really, when you think about it, everyone who is in sales and marketing, those are the people that make the most money. Mm-hmm. It's not the easiest job to get. It's not the easiest skill to master, and you never master sales and copywriting, for example.
Right.
You're always learning. But those are literally the two first skills I tackled head on when I was a teenager. In 2003, I said, I need to learn copywriting. I literally need, if I learn the skill of writing copy, which is literally writing sentences that persuade someone to do something, I can write something and put it online and someone can buy. And so that's, I remember asking, my dad was a teacher at the time. I remember asking my dad to print out the old Gary Halbert letters from his old website.
Yeah. Because
I remember Halbert saying in one of his newsletters, if you really want to master copywriting, you should handwrite every good sales letter out by hand, right? And so that's what I did. It was long, it was tedious. I didn't really understand why I was writing those letters initially, but today, the skill, I'd say the number one skill today that you can have online is copywriting. So the art of persuading through words. If you master salesmanship through print, like they say, you can convince clients to come to you. You can convince your friends to go to a movie. You can convince people to pay you for services that don't exist yet. You can sell products that are still, in development stage. Look at Kickstarter, for example. They're pretty much pitching products that do not exist yet, just because they're able to communicate well. So I would say if you really want to master if there's one skill that you can master that will help you for every other skill that you can master after that one, it will be copywriting. Because copywriting will make you understand sales. It'll make you understand social media too, indirectly, because you'll then learn to write for Facebook, which is different than writing for Instagram, different to LinkedIn, different to TikTok today. That would be the number one skill I would focus on. It's a hard skill to master. And you never fully master it, but when you get good at it, you literally, it's like making money out of thin air sometimes. You can type an email, send an email to your list, and I'm sure you either do this often or you advise people to do it, and create money where money didn't exist a few hours earlier. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm so glad you. First of all, I have a lot of these conversations and they, take a lot of different forms and angles and go different directions. I don't think there's anything I love more than geeking out with a fellow hardcore marketing nerd. I mean, you're talking about hand copying Gary Halbert letters. This is the stuff that I did that I can't talk to most people about, I mean, that's tremendous. I'll tell you straight up. So I got to meet Perry Belcher at an event 2 months ago. I sat next to him, talked to him for an hour. It was like most kids getting to sit next to Michael Jordan. Mike Dillard was an early mentor of mine, and he talks about this at length about copywriting is the irreplaceable skill that it's the one thing that no good marketer can ever 100% outsource. You never get to the point where you can abdicate responsibility for language and message, or else you're just
so tough.
You're forfeiting your control of your life at that point. And so I'm really glad you said that. And you can't be a good copywriter without understanding people, without understanding story, without understanding the buyer's journey. Like you said, platform-specific copy is really a form of stage-specific copy that the person who's just, and you think about it, it's like going on dates, man. The first time you meet somebody, you're not having the same conversations as like, well, we've been together for 3 years and I feel like I still don't know you. I need you to open up to me more. And you're like, well, let me tell you about when, I got beat up at school. Like they're just different conversations. And that's how it is. And when you get, here's why I love copywriting. I feel like it's a cheat code for life. Because when is understanding people and understanding how to craft your message to the other person's experience and the other person's expectation, when is that ever not going to be a life skill?
Well, once you really dive into copywriting, you understand that if we're really going into geekiness, you can go back and look at old posters from the 1600s, how they used to raise money to literally, how countries used to raise money to fight wars, right? If you look at the old pamphlets, how they raised money to sell land, to sell boats hundreds of years ago, you find copywriting principles.
Yeah.
And if you look at social media advertising today, you find the same principles. It's literally a skill set that will never die. And the more we're based on phones and so mobile and digital, the more scarce that skill becomes, because very few people can actually master it and focus on becoming good at copy, because it takes so much time. And so that's why I'm telling your audience, if they can focus on that and really start diving into it, you can then transition to sales, like direct sales. So phone sales, for example, which is something that we've done. I've done phone sales myself. I started doing phone sales in 2008. Now we have teams in several languages doing phone sales. But that comes from copy too, because you need to build a script, right? You need to write a script, test it, then listen to the recording and see what triggers people, what gets people interested in the offer. And so if you can master if you can start to master, if you can really dive into copywriting, it's a skill that you can use for anything. Relationships, like you mentioned, selling everything that exists or doesn't exist yet. And the other thing is, it really gives you confidence. I really think that the skill, one of the things that a lot of people overlook, I think, with people who are starting out in this online marketing journey, is it's not just about the money. Like you and me could lose everything tomorrow, and it doesn't really stress me out. I mean, I've gone through losing a lot of money online, especially 10 years ago when I was younger. Mm-hmm. You could lose everything overnight, but you know how to write persuasively, you know how to market and sell something, and you would make it back, and then some. Only because you understand psychology, copywriting, sales, marketing, propaganda, influence, persuasion. And if someone really wants to become completely independent, definitely look into copywriting, because it'll give you the skill, but also the self-confidence for life in general.
Yeah, I mean, beautifully said. And yes, it's I've weathered multiple storms, falling back on that confidence, the ability to take the actions necessary to survive certain challenges. that you're able to take, and you know, people will sort of look at it from the outside and go, oh, well, he's just got fortitude, or he's just got stamina. It's like, no, he has a skill that gives him a confidence. It's not a supernatural thing. It's actually a pretty logical thing. Like, if you know how to make money from words, you know, you can run out of money, but as long as you don't run out of words, you'll probably be okay. Right. So I love, you know, you put it beautifully. And I hope as people are hearing this conversation, you know, we're kind of joking about geeking out, right? But like, it's only geeky until you get paid, and then it gets actually really damn cool. And so, you know, are you comfortable? Because what I want is to kind of like shock people, like hit them, like, yo, we ain't messing around. This is real stuff. Like, you're busy learning all this other stuff. Chuck all that, learn copywriting, and you'll discover how Matthias created X amount of revenue for his businesses in the last 10 years. Are you comfortable throwing out a number?
Yeah. So in revenue for businesses that we're involved in, meaning that we own equity in,
yes,
over $100 million in the last 10 years in revenue. And now we're at 8 figures a year. So that's
8 figures a year. Okay. And you know, you obviously get to keep some margin of that. We don't need to know. It doesn't matter. It's a lot more than most people's day job. Because And so what would the revenue of those businesses in the last 10 years be if you weren't in the top few percentage of the world of understanding copywriting and psychology? Like zero? I mean,
I'm trying to find something that's not zero, but it would be zero.
Yeah, exactly. So these are really cool skills we're talking about, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And again, I think that, you know, coming back to the skill is one thing, and then you can decide. The beautiful thing is you can decide what you do with that skill. Maybe you don't want to have teams and hire people and have, you know, dozens of people working for you, and that's fine. Maybe you just want to be, you know, like we said, like a social media content manager, and make 10K a month and live in Hawaii. That's great. It's amazing. Like, and then, you know, maybe one day you'll want to hire someone, and then someone else, and then the third person. So you really pick and choose the level that you want to play at, but everything starts with that skill, with that one skill.
Yeah. And yes. And what I love too is a lot of people think, or I was going to say I love something else, but first let me say, you know, I think that the proliferation of video might have, in a false way, de-emphasized the value of words in people's minds. Because like, oh, I don't read, I watch videos. I don't think most people understand how much what they choose to watch on video is driven by the headline or the caption of the video. And that if you removed all the headlines and captions from the internet, nobody would know what to watch.
Yeah.
And they don't realize there are $1 million copywriters creating those little 6 words.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. What's amazing is, I feel like, and I'm going to go a bit cynical here, but I really feel like the more video content, the more average video content is out there, the better it is for the great copywriters. Because now everyone and anyone can put a video up. It doesn't mean it's going to be good. It doesn't mean they'll know the caption. It doesn't mean they'll know how to get attention through, you know, a solid headline, you know, a good thumbnail on YouTube, even on Facebook, wherever. The video, what's almost sad, and this is where I'm going cynical, is the content has become secondary now. If you don't get the click first, if you don't convince the person to click play or to watch the first 2-3 seconds, you can give them the winning lottery number at the 10th minute. They'll never hear it, right?
Yeah. And
so the more content gets, the more all these new platforms pop up. We're seeing the rise of TikTok now, Snapchat a few years ago. the better it is for people who really understand copy, because we can use that and we can really find what hooks people and what stops people from scrolling, which is pretty much the name of the game today in social media. And so the easier it is to make videos, the better it is for people like you and me who really focus on copywriting, because they'll be able to stand out even more. Because mastering copy is tough. It's tough. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, we literally right now, I mean, 3 hours ago or whenever it was, I got off a call with my content team, and a big part of the conversation is we're going back through my entire YouTube channel, which I just launched in the last couple of years. I was a little bit late to the game, but we finally really started to dial it in terms of like our thumbnails and our keywords and our titles. We're going back and redoing all the thumbnails.
Yeah.
Hundreds of videos.
Yep.
Because now that we've got the formula, we know how to get twice as many people to watch any video on any subject by changing a couple small things about the thumbnail. Yep. That have to do with words and images, which frankly, I'm not going to share on this interview.
Yep.
But it's crazy how much these tiny hinges swing these huge revenue doors if you know what they are, like you're talking about.
And you know what's amazing is you could even share that and it wouldn't work for someone else.
That's true.
Because it's, something that works for us, and we're big on YouTube. We're big on Facebook and Instagram, mainly Facebook advertising. I mean, you see this all the time. People literally steal everything you do, but it just doesn't work for them because the audience is different, right? Or because they don't understand why you're doing what you're doing on the thumbnail, right? So you can do that. You can go back and leverage and now really increase the results of all those videos you did because you understand that skill, master that skill. Exactly.
Well, man, like we said, I literally could geek out on this for hours. I know that you have other commitments coming up shortly. So I want to get to making sure that we have some time for you to share. How can people find you? How can they follow you? How can they engage with you? Obviously, you have an agency. So, for B2B client stuff, but also just people that want to learn more about digital marketing and really what it looks like to be an entrepreneur. Tell all those people where to go.
Sure. The best way would be to go either on Facebook, so my name, so facebook.com/Matthias Mazur, or to Instagram, which is same, instagram.com/Matthias Mazur, or just if it's more agency related, ZuraMedia.com would be the domain, so ZURAmedia.com, and probably wherever you post a video, there might be links around. So
right.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, and if you've enjoyed the interview, just say, hey, I was, I found out about you on the interview with Jeff. So
cool. And you have a podcast of your own, right?
Yes, and actually we're pushing more in the States over the next few months. So the timing of this is great, and we'll definitely do some more stuff in the very near future. So.
Cool. And I saw you have a personal site too, MatthiasMazur.com.
Yeah.
Which has links to your podcast and such. Yeah, cool. Well, guys, I can tell you just based on this conversation that Matthias is sufficiently hardcore about this marketing stuff to at least get my stamp of approval that like, this is the kind of stuff that you need to learn. And these are the kind of people that you need to follow if you want to tap into what the world now has to offer. That, again, it's crazy to me that the opportunity is so mature, but the information is still so generally either disregarded or just not in the public consciousness.
Yep.
Well, man, thank you for your time. I have loved having you on.
Thank you.
Favorites. Yeah. And I look forward to further conversations. And are you based in London now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I actually have reason to be in London probably if later this year or early next year. So man, I would look forward to we could grab a lunch or something.
Definitely.
Okay. All awesome. Right. Thank you, Matthias. Thanks again for being here. Grab all your links and make sure we share them with the world.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.